everybody, and welcome to this episode of Be the Wolf. I'm super excited to be here with Cynde McInnis, and I'm super excited because she's one of the very few people that has made her childhood dream a reality. And it was not really the dream you thought you could turn into a job. So, this is going to be an amazing journey for us to hear how you can do it and what it takes to actually really turn whatever your dream is, whatever it is that you love more than anything else, into your job. So Cynde, will you tell us what you do?
Sure. So first, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So I am a passionate educator, is how I describe it. I teach about whales in a lot of different aspects. So I have been working on a whale watch boat for 29 years, taking people out to see whales in the wild off the coast of Massachusetts. I am an adjunct professor at Salem State University, and it was funny. We were on a field trip the other day, and one of the person leading the field trip was like, "What is she teaching you about?" And the kids are like, "Whales." Yeah, okay. And then I also have a life-size inflatable model of a humpback whale that I take into schools to teach kids about whales and the oceans and what they can do to help protect both.
So let me guess, your first love was whales.
Yeah. Since I was little, I mean, I don't even remember. I don't remember a time that I wasn't into whales.
All right. The first thing I ever wanted to be was a clown.
Did you ever dress up as a clown or anything?
No, but in hindsight, understanding my psyche and my trauma and all of that stuff, is I have a lot of weird things about being seen and unseen at the same time.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that was my thing. But I also loved animals. And I was like the animal whisperer, the dog, the German Shepherd that hated everybody, loved me. So I had this thing about animals. But what was it for you specifically that about the whale? The whale's a weird animal for people to get attached to.
It is, and
fuzzy.
I grew up in Indiana, and I didn't see a whale in the wild until I was 14. So we used to go to SeaWorld in Ohio, and it's a part of my story that I have such mixed feelings about today, but my mom said the first time I saw the whales, I was just gobsmacked. And that's why, I mean, I don't even remember. One of my first memories is in third grade getting the autograph of a whale. The trainer stuck the pen in the whale's mouth and it scribbled on my little autograph book. So that's one of my first memories about it. But it was probably in kindergarten that I, really started liking them. And then, family vacations, whenever we were near the ocean, I'd beg to go whale watching. And I would always collect stuff, anytime I saw like a little whale stuffed animal, I'd always want to get it. And I don't know. I still don't know what it is. I just think that they're fascinating to me.
A couple of years ago, I was in Sayulita, Mexico in April, and that's during the time where the whales go. I forget which whales, which kind, but you probably know.
Humpbacks, probably.
The humpback whales go down because there's no sharks in the area. So that's where they give their birth to the babies. So it's a safer environment, and there's not a lot of food either, but they give all the food to the baby. Well, you would know more, of course. And then when the baby's strong enough to make the transition back up the coast, then they'll go back up the coast.
Yeah. I love that you learned that down there.
I did. I learned it from a very handsome man on a boat.
Excellent.
And I got to see, the mom jump, because they're teaching the babies, right? So the mom would jump and then the baby would jump. It was really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So cool. So you have this love of whales, and you went through high school, and then comes the time, everybody, when they're a teenager, is like, what am I going to do with my life? When you were in that stage of life with this love for whales, what were you thinking about trying to do?
So I went to a really young high school, and they did not have established science teachers yet. So I was not into science. I had 3 biology teachers in 1 year and 2 physics teachers in 1 year.
Whoa.
So I was not turned on to science, and that was not something that I didn't go to college thinking I would pursue something with whales. I thought it would be because I wasn't into science. I just thought, how am I going to do this if science isn't my thing? So when I went to college, I wasn't looking for a place that had a marine biology degree. When I got to college, a friend of mine took the marine biology class the first semester, and I think they studied whales one day. And I was like, well, I just want to learn about whales. I don't want to learn about the whole ocean. So I ended up studying psychology because I knew I wanted to work with kids. I knew in some way I wanted to teach, but I didn't want to. Teaching in a classroom wasn't, something that I wanted to do. So I got my degree in psychology, and then when I graduated, I had no idea. I didn't know what I was going to possibly do. I did think about whale watching because I had gone once during college, and there were 2 people that were retired that were on the boat collecting data. And I thought, oh, okay, when I retire, maybe then I can work on a whale watch boat and volunteer or something like that. But all of my friends were moving out to Boston. And so I had gone back to Indiana for like 3 weeks, and I was like, oh, I don't want to live in the Midwest. And so I came out to Boston, and I had brought my resume because I was looking for a job. I went whale watching, and I talked to the people on the boat, and because everybody was my age, I was like, you like, this is a paid job. You could actually get paid to work on a boat.
Before you get there, though, I want to touch on something that's so common, or there's a couple of things that are so common in your story, right? Here's this thing that I love, but I don't know how to make a job out of it, right? If the classes about it only have one one day about whales, like, why would I bother? I remember I was a chemical engineer major, and I knew I wanted to become a photographer, and my school had one photography class. I'm like, well, why am I going to even bother switching majors? Like, I'm just going to drop out of this horrible program that I hate.
Yeah.
But you finished, and I think, you did know some of the things that you wanted to do, and that's more than a lot of people know by the time they get to college. So you knew what maybe wanted to work with kids, maybe wanted to teach. But again, you're in this program, this school of doing things that is kind of, did you feel like it was what you were supposed to do? Just go to college?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it wasn't, the question wasn't, are you going to go to college? It was, where are you going to go?
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So that was kind of not even, not a choice. I mean, I loved it, and I'm, obviously grateful that I went. But, and even past that, it was like, what's going to be next then? What's the next degree you're going to get, and that sort of thing too. So education is always something that's been super valued in my family.
Right. And I think that's the thing. Like, you get out of college, and then where's the roadmap? Like, you work so hard, you get good grades in high school so that you can get into college, but then where's the roadmap? Like, nobody tells you. I mean, some people have like internship tracks, and maybe there's sort of a specific roadmap if they're going to the right kind of school, if they have the right mentors, if they actually speak up and look for that stuff. A lot of people don't have the gumption to do that.
Or if there's like a traditional kind of path that you take for that profession.
Right. Okay. So, and then the other piece I wanted to touch on there that was so big is, I'll live my life, and then I'll do the thing I love. So there are these retired people on the boats, like, I'll do it when I retire. I have to wait 60 years before 50 years, whatever it is, before I could actually do the thing I love. And I think, I mean, that like the generation before us, that was the mentality, right? You get a steady job, you work hard, you retire, and then you travel, then you enjoy life, then maybe you open your own little restaurant or whatever it might be that's like your heart's desire.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's, I mean, I think too, probably that's what I had been, that's what I was thinking too. I think a little bit going into college, like these are the different things that I need to do in my life. But there was, yeah, there was
But
more.
then therefore, so you're on the whale watching boat, you're in college, you're looking at people your own age. What, it's looking at people, our peers doing something, not just somebody that's like a famous person doing this thing over here or a retiree, but when you start to see your peers, people that are like you doing something, did that give you an aha moment?
It definitely did. I mean, I remember I remember my first trip. I'd probably been on 2,500 whale watches. I remember that first trip so clearly. And I remember coming in and being on the bow and talking to the person that had been on the microphone and being like, how do I do this? Like this job is exactly what I want to do. Because to me, being able to talk about whales and teach people about whales was absolutely hands down. I couldn't even imagine myself doing anything else at all. And so she told me about an internship program, and it's still a great way to get into the whale world, to do an internship. And so she told me about this internship. She's like, you'll eat, sleep, and breathe whales. And I was like, oh, that sounds amazing, And and so because I had my resume, I left it with her. And then I drove across country for 3.5 weeks. And the day that I had gotten home, my mom was like, this person from KPN Whale Watch called you. Do you want to come out? And we're asked if you wanted to work on the boat. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that was amazing.
Yeah. So you kind of put it out there. Did you think you would get accepted
I
or?
really, I put it out there and I not forgot about it, but it wasn't something that I thought about during the trip. And, I kind of thought, well, I don't have any experience working on a boat. I have no experience working on the ocean. I knew a little bit about photography, which is important because you're taking pictures of the whales. I knew how to talk to people. So I thought, well, maybe there's a chance I could get this, but I have no idea. I don't know. I don't even think I really thought it was a possibility because I don't remember ever thinking about it on our road trip.
Interesting. And what I've seen time and time again with people who get the things that they really want, who actually get them, is they put the effort, they take the action, right? You always have to take the action to get anything. You can't just sit there and like, oh, come to me, come sit in my lap. It doesn't work. People talk about astrology and they say like, oh, but I'm supposed to meet my soulmate this month, but you gotta leave the house. Like you might have better odds for that happening, but you've got to take action. No, it doesn't matter what the stars say. If you don't leave your house, maybe a delivery man might be your soulmate. I don't know, but odds are small.
Odds are slim.
So you took the action, you put it out there, and what I've seen is that people will do this. This is what I want. They do the action, they put it out there, they forget about it. They're not spending all this time thinking about, oh my God, what if I get this? What if I don't get this? Because then it's like, and if you think about all those thoughts that go through your head when you're real nervous about something, it's like push and pull, push and pull, push and pull. And if you're a person that believes in energy, imagine if this is the thing you want, and then there's energy pushing and pulling back and forth. Like, how are you going to actually get that thing, right? Instead of saying like, hello, I like you, that's great, and then not being attached to it and walking away, and then the thing's like, hello, hi, I want you.
Yes,
You're the one I want. You didn't push and pull me all over the place.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly if that's how it works, but I've seen it so many times that it just blows my mind. There has got to be something to that. Put it out there and then surrender.
And I think too, I think too, it's kind of, I mean, I think about like, this is what I was meant to do. You know what I mean? This is an opportunity that was put in front of me. And I chose to take a step into it. And then that literally changed my life.
Yeah. And that's the other piece too, is the opportunity was there. And were you going to have your blinders so set on, I'm going back to Boston in 3 weeks. This isn't what in my plan. My blinders are so tight that I'm not even going to see this opportunity, but you saw the opportunity and you took action. And that's, I think, what the biggest thing, most people that feel like there are no opportunities are really attached to the way it's supposed to be, or however it is they picture it in their mind. So you had this opportunity show up, you took the action, you let it go, and you got the call back. And then what happened?
I ended up coming out here. The other thing I will say too is that I wasn't attached to what was going to happen eventually, like where it would lead. Like that wasn't at all a piece that I just wanted to watch whales. That was it. So I moved out here and I volunteered on the boat for 3 months and babysat for the owner. And so that winter, we were talking and he said, do you want to work in the galley next summer? Because the position of naturalist, which is the person that talks on the microphone, wasn't available. And so I was like, yes, I will do anything to work on the boat and make money. So I worked in the galley, which is serving food. And I wasn't very good at it because I wanted to watch the whales. But then the next year, but the really cool thing was that I had basically a season and a half on the boat. And I listened to 4 different naturalists call the trip or talk about the whales. And so what was really cool is that when it was then my turn to do it myself, I had all these different people to pull from to then put together my own kind of spiel. So the next year I got a job as naturalist and took over the internship program. And so hired college students to help work on the boat and that sort of thing.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And, I've talked about this before, but it is that like, it's great to have a 10-year goal. Sure, you have a direction that you're moving towards, but the reality is you're right here, right now. So if you're trying to make the steps that are going to make that 10-year goal happen, your mind is at like year 9 instead of right here where you are now. And so if you had, a lot of people might have just given up and been like mad that they didn't get to talk on the microphone right away that first year, that second year. But because you were able and willing to stay where you were and take steps forward each time, you got closer and closer. And had you tried to like leave and be like, well, I know all this stuff about whales and I'm going to go try and work on a different boat. You might have spent 10 years trying to work on a different boat instead of taking the steps that were there right in front of you.
Definitely. And it really, I think like when I first started as a naturalist, I kind of say I didn't take it very seriously. And I also, that was 2 years out of college. And my parents had kind of been like, when are you going to go back to school and get another degree? Like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know what I want to do yet. I just am starting this job and I know I like the whales, but I don't know where I want to take it. And what I found was that when I started working, there were other research groups that were studying the whales, but nobody was really looking at education. And so I was kind of like, oh, this could be my niche. This could be the thing where I can make an impact for whales. And then I met a professor that came out whale watching, and I wasn't even working this day. The person that was the naturalist luckily made the connection that we would love to have a conversation, and we did. And he was somebody else that changed my life, because he introduced me to kind of all these different learning theories that then led me back to go get a master's in whale watch education. I designed my own program. And so I just, it's ending up on this one particular boat led me to meet these other people. And again, it's opportunities I feel like that are put in front of me that I guess I feel lucky that I was able to see them as opportunities and take advantage of them.
Right. Well, here's the thing that I think a lot of people experience. You're doing this job that your parents are looking at you like, this isn't the job for like life. This can't be it for you. I want more for you. Go to school, go back to school, do this thing, figure it out now. So you've got that pressure coming in on one side. You didn't know yet what you really wanted to do. What was that like, the back and forth? Was it a struggle for you, or?
It was. I knew that they were supportive of what I was doing, because I knew they knew that I loved it.
Right.
But I just felt like I just need time. I just need time to figure out, what I want to do with this and where I want to take it and how it's going to happen, I guess. And so then I think it was 5 years after I graduated from college, I went back and started a master's program. So it took me a few years, but
yeah,
it was perfect. I mean, the timing of it was perfect, because it was the coolest experience too, going back when you know exactly what you want to do as an adult, and then being able to work in the field and learn. It was awesome.
Well, and that's the thing too. Again, there's that pressure, right? You have to have it all figured out. And I know people just getting out of college, they're getting into the workforce. They're like mad that they can't make a difference. Like, I wanted to make a difference and I've got to figure this all out. And, there was a time when our lifespan was like 30 years. There was a time like when the age of retirement was 65, the average lifespan was 70, right? So we were always conditioned to work till almost we die.
Yeah, it's a different time now.
But the average age expectancy, I think, is like 83 now. So you're 20, like 25. You've got time to lean into the things that you love and take that space to figure it out. And no steps that you ever take are going to be wrong. You're going to learn from them. But the easier it is for you to listen to what's true and right for you, right? That's the whole be the wolf thing. The more joy you're going to have along the way, the easier the lessons will be to collect, because you'll always come back to what is right for me. And I love that your parents were supportive. So you were able to say, hey, what's right for me? And take that time. And then you went back and you got to do something that I don't think most people know is possible: design your own curriculum.
Yeah, I did it through Lesley University. And I would work with a professor each different semester. And it was so amazing, because the people that I worked with would just bring such a different perspective that I hadn't thought of. And I remember this summer that I was working on the boat and trying to take classes. I did we call them packets, but I did a packet on leadership. And so I was studying this stuff, and then I had the interns that were there that I was working with. And so I would learn something and then I would test it out. And it was just such an amazing experience to be in the field when you're learning. And for me, and it's something that I always try to pass on to my students, it's understanding the theory and then being able to put it into practice and understand how they go together. I think it's huge.
I mean, that's such a piece. It reminds me a lot of entrepreneurship. Like, you get into this thing because you love it. Like, maybe you make dresses. I don't know. So you make dresses because you love to make dresses and you're a great designer and all of that, but you want a small little thing. And then you realize, oh, I've got to learn about accounting and I've got to
Marketing and
manage a staff and all of these different things. And
yeah.
a lot of times, if you take a leap into something like entrepreneurship without figuring all that stuff out first, it's just like, it's enough to make you want to
Whoa.
quit.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And so what I'm hearing in your designing of your curriculum is that you were looking at all the pieces that you might need to learn about to create your dream career. Does that sound correct?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't even think I quite knew it at the time, but so many of the things that I was studying are things that I still use today in all of my, I don't know, different hats that I wear, I guess, all my different professions.
Right.
It's like how to teach and how do kids learn, and how do you teach in formal and informal settings, all of these different things. Yeah, I still use so much of what I did for my master's 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, and it's also interesting too when you're looking at when you go back to school later or when you choose to do different programs and stuff. So I never went back to college, but I want to talk about the mountains of education I've done since then. Um, but when you're choosing to, because you have a purpose for it, because once you've taken that time to figure out what you want to do and you've tried on some different hats, the power of what you learn is so much more effective, I think, when you're when you're directing it exactly towards what you're born to do.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think I knew some of that at the time, but I don't think I knew all of it. You know what I mean? I guess I just didn't know how all of it would then influence the rest of my life so much, I think.
Yeah. So you finished, you got your master's. What was your degree called? You got your master's in what?
It was in interdisciplinary studies, but I think I'd called it whale watch education.
Okay.
And then I worked on the boat. I developed this program. I trained interns during the summer. And then a few years went by, and then when we started whale watching, when I started, so I've been doing it for 29 years. So 25 years ago, we used to take a lot of schools out to go see the whales. And it was so cool because the kids would get to have that experience. But things have changed because of, buses and cost and time on task. We don't take school groups out anymore. And so I had for years I always wanted to take whales somehow back to Indiana to teach kids in Indiana about whales. And so I had always called this idea the Whalemobile because I used to see the Oscar Mayer mobile. So this sits on my desk.
Yeah.
And I thought, ooh, that was almost in the shape of a whale. I could take one of those and trick it out. And about 10 years, and so coupled with that idea of a traveling whale, and realizing that even kids out here weren't getting to go out on the ocean anymore, I was like, this would be a way that I could take whales into schools. And so 10, 11 years ago, I had this really nice life-size inflatable whale that I take into schools, and the kids come inside of it and we learn about the whales and how whales are impacted, how they help the planet, how they help the oceans, and what kids can do. And so that's really, so I'm on the whale watch boat a little bit, and I spend more of my time now in schools and libraries just talking to kids about what we can do to help the oceans.
And so when you had this idea and you figured out how to make it work, right? It's not always if you can do it, it's like how.
And that's been a huge process. I mean, like you're saying about being an entrepreneur, it's like, I'm great in front of the kids. I'm not so good in the back office. Like that's a whole process of learning how to actually make it happen.
Yeah,
how to do all the day-to-day stuff.
so I was going to ask, what what were the things you had to overcome? What were the fears that came up during that? Like, how do we bring the whale to the land?
I mean, a huge one is, will anybody, want me to come and do this? Will people want me to come talk to their kids? And then another huge one to overcome was like, how do I run a business? Like, how do I reach out to schools? Because for a while I would just wait for like an email inquiry to come in, or two people would talk about it and somebody would reach out. So it took me a few years to, I guess, really own the fact that I could be in control of this, and I could market, and I could reach out to schools and have me come in. That's been a huge learning curve for me, and I've gotten help in how to make it happen. But it's always worth it, because it's just so fun to hang out with kids for a day and see them get excited. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know when you feel called to do something. And I think a lot of people can relate to this. When you feel called to do something and then you try to do it and it doesn't work out, right? You like I traveled the country photographing ghost bikes, and I felt called to make this art project. I self-published a book, and then I still have a whole bunch of them because I didn't know how to market. I didn't know how to, I had the scarcity mindset. I can't hire a publicist, like, talking to people, all these different things that ultimately were obstacles that caused me to stop. And it wasn't really about the passion or the dream that I was trying to create. It was that those fears were too hard at the time for me to overcome. And I think that's, when somebody's thinking about turning the thing that they love into a career, right? You can just do it and hope it's like the staying inside and waiting for your dream person to show up at the door, but the reality is you've got to take action to make it happen. And to do that, which most people are unwilling to do, it means facing those fears and putting yourself out there. Is there a specific fear that you can think of that came up during that time? Besides the, like, will people want this? Like when you're like, okay, I have to market and I can push through that place. Cause I think that's the turning point. I think for a lot of people is when they're willing to go there, but then they've got to face whatever comes up there.
I mean, I think that, like what you said about this scarcity mindset, I think that's a huge thing to overcome. And that's been a really big thing that I've been working on this year. My word of the year was abundance. And it would that has been my goal, is to, to the fear that can I contribute to my family and make this a viable, thing? Can I do this and still be a good parent? Can I, do all of these different things? And shifting from that just coming from scarcity, I guess, and getting to that place of feeling like, yes, I can do this. I can find balance, which is a constant thing I think we work on. That's been a really big thing for me this year, even 10, 11 years into doing this.
Yeah. Was there something, you said you've been working on that in the last year? Was there something specific that kind of turned you around a little bit to being able to be more open to receiving abundance?
I think, I've been trying to, I've been working on, like doing some meditations, like about abundance, and doing a lot of visualization. And I feel like that helps me. I guess it's the constant, it's saying, okay, this is what I want, more than fearing something. And so even if it's 5 minutes a day, I try to sit down and listen to something that helps me get into that mindset. And it definitely, when I move away from it, because I've had times that I'm like out on the road a lot or something, and I get away from doing any of the, I don't know, kind of more daily mental things for myself. You know, I get out of practice and I find myself slipping back into that kind of scarcity mindset. And so it's really working at it. I hope sometime it shifts so that it's, you know, I don't slip back into it, but that's been a big one.
Yeah, it's a huge one for a lot of people. It's one of the things I work on with my clients, because when you're making a career shift, especially into something that's fulfilling and you love, you've got to be more excited about what you can gain than what you're going to lose. And so what I'm hearing, and you're taking time every day, is you're focusing on what you're trying to create and what you're moving towards, rather than, oh my gosh, are I going to lose the house? Are we going to have food on the table? All these things that you don't want, right? It's either towards that thing that you're trying to create or what you're trying to prevent. And to really stay, when your mindset naturally just leans towards what you're trying to create and stops flipping out about what you're trying to lose or prevent, that's when you just automatically start creating the abundance. And that shift, when it happens, it's like magic, if
Yeah.
there's such a thing as magic. But yeah, it's powerful.
I think too, it's like there's two things. One is that I also I notice signs that I feel like I'm on the right path. Like, so I mean, this is like a hokey one, but to me it was huge. So the humpbacks that we watch in Massachusetts all have names, and we see the same whales year after year. So one of my favorites is a whale named Clipper. And I saw her every single year that I was there for like 4 years. 1997 was the last year I saw her. And then in 2005, I took a step back from the whale watch. And the second to the last trip that I had worked before I retired for the first time, I went out and she was there. I hadn't seen her in 7 years, and she was there. I was like, okay, there's my blessing. This is what I need to do. And so I look at things like that have happened throughout my career, and some of it's with individual whales, some of it's with people. And I know in my heart of hearts that I'm on the right path and that I'm doing what I should be doing.
Yeah.
And the other piece of it is like, is going back to really the why I'm doing what I'm doing, you know.
100%.
So I mean, I love sharing whales with kids. And I think about, for me, it wasn't about protecting the planet when I was a kid. I just liked whales. Yeah. But that has been my path to getting to the point where I think about the planet and I think about what actions we can take. And so that's what I want to emulate with kids. Like, sometimes I tell the kids, like, I just want you to leave thinking whales are cool, because that's a first step along this journey of life to protecting our planet. Like, I just want you to think whales are cool. And so getting back to that when I'm having that's where it all stems from. That's an important thing too.
Well, that's the why. The why isn't so you can not end up on the street, and the why isn't so you can support there's a bigger purpose here. And when more you lean into the bigger purpose, the more stuff starts to show up for you, if you're willing to look and if you're willing to take the action. That's so cool.
Yes.
So cool.
And I've seen that 100% this year.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's definitely a sign that you are on the right path. Okay, Cynde, can you tell people how they can get in touch with you, how they can check out the Whalemobile, how they get all the things?
All the things, 100%.
All the things.
So I am, my website's whalemobile.com, and you can go there to see the types of programs that I do in schools or libraries. There's a contact form you could fill out if you're interested. I do travel. I live in Massachusetts, but I am planning on being as far west as Illinois this summer, I think, as far south as possibly Virginia. So if you're somewhere in that little semicircle for Massachusetts, certainly reach out. And then I'm on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube. So you can find out more on all of those sites about what I do.
And all the handles are the Whalemobile, correct?
Yep, they are.
Yay. I just love so much that you have taken something you were so passionate about and turned it into a business. But more than anything, it's something you get to do every day in your life. So being able to be excited to wake up, that's the beautiful thing about having a purpose is, you know, your purpose is bigger than you, it's bigger than your family, and it keeps you motivated to keep going. And that is
Absolutely.
awesome.
And I share that with kids because I feel like along with teaching them about whales, like that's part of my story is this kid that grew up in Indiana that, you know, works with whales. And it is, I used to say, I was like, I don't ever feel like I'm working because this is just what I'm called to do and what I always have. Can I say one other thing actually too, that
Of
I think is
course.
really important is like, for me, it was whales, but I didn't want to do science. And so like to kind of think outside the box, like if there are people that are interested in something, but not in the traditional route of getting it, to just think outside the box of how you can still have your passion incorporated into your life, you know, and not with the traditional routes that we think we're supposed to do. I mean, we talked about that a little bit earlier, but that's always something that I like to share with kids. Like if you're into turtles but not into science, like we need artists, we need engineers, we need, you know, all different people to be working on that one topic, I guess. So.
Exactly. And one of those things too, the thing that you love could also just be a gateway to the thing that you don't know about yet. And so follow those ideas and those passions and those things that you love, and also don't be attached to the way it's supposed to look. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Cynde. Oh, I'm so glad you got to share with us today.
I know, it's so nice to chat.
I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for bringing whale love into the world and your joy of talking about what you do. It exudes. Those of you, I'm sure, that are listening can hear it, but if you're watching on video, you can definitely see it. And it always lights me up when people are doing something that they love. So thank you for bringing that joy and light into the world.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me to come chat with you today. It's been wonderful.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. We will see you next time on Be the Wolf. And that's it. Bye.